Shadowverse is a trading card game that involves turn-based tactical strategic gameplay. The one thing I liked about it was the ability to power yourself up at any given time.
I've always been interested in card games. I found them very fascinating, very fun. I've collected them both for fun and just to play with them. I say I've made a lot of friends through card games as well. I've just kind of always been drawn to them. I like holding them in my hands, I guess, like playing them. I think it's very satisfying to like physically draw the cards, shuffle them around.
When I arrived, I was hired to teach in the game programming program at Humber College. So I immediately knew it was going to be okay to talk about video games all the time. So I talked with students, I met different folks, players and the like, and I knew that there were esport teams and I wanted to build infrastructure for them because I knew that unless you have buy-in from the uppers, like administration, it's going to be really tough to do things in the school. So I decided I wanted to be the ambassador for that. So I worked with Kevin Tang, and Kevin Tang helped me put together a survey to find out what the top games were at Humber that students were playing. And then once we figured out what the top 8 were, we announced that these were the games that we were going to support.
I had a very cool professor named Chris who said, hey, we're making a Shadowverse team. I was like, oh, I play Shadowverse. I'd love to join. And I showed up for practice and kind of just from there got into it.
It was kind of weird because at the time when we were first years in college, esports in Humber wasn't really a thing yet. One of my professors, Chris, was kind of the big push to make Shadowverse as a team. Like orientation day, or like the first day of school when we all just were in a room together, Chris brought out the game on the projections like, this is the game I play, like very, very vividly. I remember that. And then the first lecture we had was just Chris, I'd play with him. And then he told me about the project of starting off Humber Esports. And I believe Shadowverse was one of the first teams because of that.
Hi, my name is Nicholas. I'm one of the coaches for the Shadowverse team. And yeah.
I normally play games with the students in class by default, but specifically for Shadowverse, I had recently heard about Shadowverse and I was like, I don't know if I'd get into that game. But then one of the students, I can't remember who it was, he said, yo, Shadowverse just announced a partnership with Street Fighter. And I said, well, that's it, I'm in. So I paid for M-Bison, just one. I put in an obsessive amount of hours in, and I must have been so excited that I was showing the students what I was up to. So
when we first started out, we were very green. It was a very small team. We were all new to it, but we took it very seriously. We'd show up to practice every day, never miss meetings.
At first, I kind of wanted to be a player, but there's a thing when you know that in order to get the groundwork going, you just have to be the coach, right? For me, I still take great pride in like wanting to make something from scratch and like going from there. So even if I wanted to be a player, I knew I had to be the coach in order to make sure that other people can get that chance to be the player.
And I'm convinced that there's absolutely something that video games can teach the world of academia, like how they can cater to human learning, how they can enhance online instruction, and how they can provide clear objectives. What are the objectives of a post-secondary education anyway? And what could education overall learn from video games?
I was a coach, so I basically managed games and scrims and all that, but I was also the one mainly in charge of paperwork and team management and scrims with the assistance of my assistant coach, Nick. For us, it was a 1-week meetup for practice. We would basically play a lot during the week ourselves, come back, commune as a team, discuss what is happening, do a little bit of extra scrims with new changes that we found on the meta, and then, just continue that ad nauseum until we get more and more refined.
We focused on improvement, and I think we really did that.
Our preparation is very, very simple. It is basically just training on what you want and then keeping up the pressure until we can get really good at it.
I think theory for Shadowverse is very important, and it's also one of my weaker aspects that the team makes up for. Because obviously we're a group of guys and we can put our brains together and like look at the data and look at what decks work, what doesn't, trial and error, and we have a lot of different opinions, right? And we can kind of take all that and see, oh, these decks would probably be the best for me personally.
The majority of games are usually won at deck building, right? So the idea that yes, some cards are like, oh, bad hands, bad whatever the nuts, but the skill in competitive card games is dealing with the variance, building your deck so you already have a consistent engine, or the skill of mulliganing. Your opening hand, choosing what to tuck away, what to pull back in, right? Hoping to what you pull in, right? So there's a lot of skill already in that, and when you get to that high level play, the chances of luck really deciding is a lot lower. That and mental health checks were especially important. because we are a smaller team in collegiate especially in Humber even. So making sure that everyone had a good mental state when going into tournaments, into SVO, was very important because it made it very difficult to actually play since it's such a long slog of a game.
Playing competitive Shadowverse it can be very stressful because most tournaments it's usually a whole day of 7 whole matches, best 2 out of 3 usually. So it's mostly an endurance test.
Early on after an SVO, we would probably try to figure out which decks do you want to be bringing, right? Every practice, which decks are you thinking about bringing? If you're like, the first 2, usually solid, third one's usually a flex pick, just because there's usually only 2 really big decks at the time, and then 1 you can usually choose off of.
The first time I managed to get into the top 8, I almost didn't believe it. I called up Raph and Nick. I was like, guys, I'm in the top 8. I'm in the top 8.
Let's not sleep on the newcomers. I've not seen Docdodo before, but all the newcomers are showing up today.
He's got a pro picture.
Yes, he's got an esports pose
That's
picture.
right.
True.
So,
So I'm scared for sure. I'm intimidated by it.
automatic threat, right?
We couldn't believe it. We were all celebrating. We're like, this has got to be a fluke. It can't be possible, right? Like top 8 in North America, that's insane, especially since it was only like a few months since we started playing. It was a very special occasion for us. We all took it very seriously, and everyone was watching, tuned into that one for sure.
Dodo, like he's had a very not a lot of expression, but when he drew that second roach, I saw a slight smile in there.
You need to remember that this was only a couple months really into our team really shining, right? All the other teams in collegiate were doing extremely well. I believe COD was basically first placing everywhere, right? And every other team had an enclosed space for collegiate only, right? Shadowverse is only the high-level esports scene, right? And opens are a mixed bag, a very mixed bag. You can either have new players or Mana Surge, Tempo Storm, or big heavy hitter esports already inside that same tournament.
It's a little bit daunting to go into the world of a competitive card game like this, and you're facing literally the best in the world, and to get such a good placement, right? Like top 8. There's a bit of a disconnect. I saw myself as maybe just a random player, not a professional, right? Maybe a bit of imposter syndrome even.
I didn't hear much from Humber after I departed, so I was so proud to hear that Docdodo was killing it and moving up the ranks.
X, attack, right? There's the roach. Okay,
Yeah.
So is this lethal, right? You play Carol. Carol does 5. So does 5. Yeah. It's lethal from 15.
That moves us on to our third quarterfinals of the day. We have a new competitor going up against a veteran for this year's Shadowverse Open. We have Raymondo going up against Docdodo. Docdodo's second appearance in the top 8. He's bringing the Natural Dragon.
Just to see oh, I can achieve this pretty consistently. You kind of feel like, oh, maybe I do belong here. Because the first time it was a fluke, and then it happened, I think, a month or 2 later, and we're like, oh no, this is something we can do. If we keep at it, we can see our results clearly. We see how we're improving.
To use Natural Mechanist, but at least it canceled out another Natural Mechanist board. Although I say that, I'm pretty much wrong because Mono is going to come out, and the Alpha Drive is going to mean that is a lot of damage to face, more than enough, and that's
going to be exact lethal actually. The Mono wasn't discounted by 2 play points and 5 play point Alpha Drives, just enough. Docdodo takes game number 1.
Each time we did an open and did any event, any practice, we wrote it down, we iterated, we did our best, we experimented, right? There are many tried things we've done for practices that are not necessarily a part of our normal schedule, but we throw in from time to time to help shake things up as well to get everyone's brain juices flowing.
So it was definitely a positive feedback thing of oh, we're winning more, oh, we should try more so we can win more, and then we win more and more and more and more and more. It was definitely a great thing.
The motion is more than enough to close the game out. The Zeus was not able to do it, and Docdodo is going to take the series 2-1.
First sort of feature match. So, Docdodo, he's already made a bit of a name for himself in these SVO West Cups. So, he's had quite a few top 8s last year, and so he's kind of riding this momentum, right, from last year where it's top 8, but he needs that extra little push just to go a little bit further and actually make it out to the very top, which is going to be between Docdodo and God Temer.
Again, we've seen both of his players in the top 8 multiple times. Will it be the day that Docdodo becomes a champion? Or will God Temer go all the way?
So for us graduating, normally you'd expect maybe the team would be breaking up, right? Since it's Humber based, but for us, we're friends outside of Humber. So for us, it wasn't such a big leap. We kind of just kept doing what we were doing. And it was like, we're not technically Humber right now, but we're still the same team.
So Team Starfall initially started off as the original York U team before they just stopped affiliating with York U and just started becoming their own team. We brought in a lot of both like Robert obviously being like a top 8 player, like huge already, but we also brought in a lot of organizational skills that we learned from Humber Esports. Robert was offered a couple contracts. I don't quite remember which teams they were. You'd have to ask Robert. But he was offered and then ultimately decided to stay with Team Starfall because it was a more familiar crowd. He knew how we worked and we knew like how we could get results with him, right?
Starfall is definitely a positive thing. So we participate in pretty much every large competitive Shadowverse event. And then we also just hang out as friends, we go get food and stuff together. So I realized I qualified for the Contenders Cup and the World Grand Prix at the same time, so I ended up kind of practicing for both. Normally we practice as a whole team, we meet up all of us once a week and then maybe practice a few times during the week, like individually, but not all together. And I also play, every day on the commute, at least for 2 hours or so on the train. Though during this time, I was obviously practicing much more. So not only that consistent 2 hours, but after I got home, I would also be, queuing up with my friends and we'd talk about the meta as well.
Expectations were honestly, in my opinion, just like, Robert already qualified for Worlds, right? So Robert was already in Worlds. So in Contenders Cup, we wanted to like take less as a worrisome and like worry about like, winning or losing. We wanted him to just use it as training essentially. It'll suck if you can't make it, like if you can't win the first game and you get knocked out early, but you're still in Worlds.
Contenders Cup was interesting because I almost never won games on stream, right? I was kind of like what they call the Docdodo curse, if anything, where I'd get to top 8 consistently and then I'd lose once I got there. So going into Contenders Cup, not many people had high hopes for me, right? They were expecting me to lose round 1 immediately, which I actually did, but luckily Contenders Cup is double elimination bracket, so if you lose once, you still have a second chance.
Robert lost his first game, so we're like, oh no, the curse. But just try to keep things like lighthearted. I didn't mention it in chat at all. Like, I didn't want to do that because I don't want to mess with his head.
I'm going to be honest, my mental health there was very, very negative. Losing the first round, I think I lost 3-0. I was like, oh man, maybe it is the curse. Maybe the curse is true. Maybe I'm not good enough.
Like how? How does it happen when he's so consistent every month in his play records in Swiss? Or just drop the Eric on top of that. You got plenty of damage here. It's way more than enough for a lethal. And just like that, Rinforzano is going to take Game 1 over Docdodo and start off strong in this match. Alright, there we go. Sadly, no tracing in hand. Okay, he's choosing something.
Maybe he wants to fight for the...
wait.
Yeah.
It's time for some damage, boys.
That's gonna be a lot of damage. Is that an Evo?
Hold up.
Does that have Doctor Desire on it?
He has Psycho Pump in hand. This is it.
11 to the face.
Oh my god, Doctor. Yep. Your smile brings me joy right now. This is exactly what I wanted to see. Docdodo ties it up 1-1 in the Shadow Mirror. Let's see it.
Okay.
Rinforzano just praying. My man's just praying. He's putting his hands together. All right.
It missed.
Wait, that's it.
Yeah, that's game. You just have to trade, go face, Cat Admiral.
Yep, Cat Admiral seals the deal.
And Docdodo is gonna take a lead in this set.
Docdodo. I am so glad to see that this is... Oh my god.
He looks pretty happy.
He does look happy. This is just... It's hard not to root for him when he's just been having such a rough game every time he makes it.
And all Docdodo has to do is just play the elements of creation and he will win the set. Docdodo is going to take it 3-1.
Let's go, Docdodo. Unfortunately for Rinforzano, that is where his run will end.
Then going into the second round, which was on camera, I ended up winning for once. And people got very excited, like, oh, he's broken the curse finally. He's gotten past the 8th place.
I remember them as powerhouse programmers. You don't program on stream. It's a lot of calculation in private, solving things, and then revealing once the answer is there. That directly translates into playing off stream on Shadowverse. And it's really stressful if you think about trying to code like Ken Perlin's 3D noise or a shader inside Unreal Engine in front of somebody. You usually go away. So I'm happy to hear that they broke out of it, but that means that they're switching from code mode to show mode. And I like that, because if they can somehow maintain this on-stream brain that is clearly there, you know that there are few humans that are able to program the way these folks can program. It's not easy. So his ability to finally, and their ability, both of their ability to finally calculate in private, unquestionable, but that it's transitioning to the external world, I think that's great. It's gonna help both in-game and for job acquisition, guaranteed.
Docdodo advancing through the lower bracket, and he's going to be playing. Ooh, this is going to be pretty intense because he still has to play his match today. You know, the people on the winner's side, they've already been off. You know, they can go get some sleep. You know, just clock out. But there's still more waiting for him, as we can see. He's going to be playing against Dulan.
Oh, and that is
people.
quite the opponent. Funny enough, both of them already qualified to the Grand Prix.
So I was facing one of the best players in North America, Dulan, who he won the previous Contenders Cup. So most people were thinking, you know, he's done it once before, he can obviously do it again.
Oh, hang on a second. Wait, this is actually big winnable. I think Dulan actually wins this game. He double trades with the non-wards. He needs 2 5/5 wards. Next turn he plays Quadra Magic. Next turn the Quadra Magic. After that, Alistair. And then what?
Oh my god.
Or not even
Wait
Alistair.
a second. Double cat.
Wait.
Double cat.
No.
Double cat.
No. Are you
the double cat.
No way. No. You are kidding me. You can't. This is highway robbery. Like, I get he's using Baron as his leader, but that's not okay. Are you serious? Docdodo.
Take it.
Oh my god.
I think this is like really the breaking of the curse, and maybe like the lifting of my spirits, if anything, because I felt very, very, very confident in myself. Like, I can do this. You know, it's not a curse. I can win on camera. I can do stuff. I would say it was the turning point, if anything.
I actually cannot believe just the sheer sequence of events that needed to transpire for the series to go the way that it did. It all started with that one bad omen, with Dulan decking out at the hands of Celeste Omega, not being able to play the elements. And to be fair, he didn't have the spell number of names, but after that, falling to the throwaway matchup, the Mysteria versus Spell Boost, but that game was closer than we expected. And then in the final game, coming down to the wire, unlike
you gave me that hope.
different
you gave
ways.
me that hope at the end.
I did. I
gave
did.
me that hope.
And
I was
honestly,
like, oh, bounce back.
for good reasons, like that looked like a one game.
Due to COVID, the World Grand Prix was canceled, but everyone who qualified kept their invites. And so the next year, they did a World Grand Prix with double the participants. So the 24 from last year plus 24 from this year. So what would happen is if they would qualify for an invite, the invite would get passed down to the second place player. In this case, the second place player already had an invite, so it got passed down to the third place player, who also had an invite, so it got passed down to me, who was in fourth place. And that's how I ended up getting the World Grand Prix invite, through some crazy loopholes and a lot of technicality. Even if it was through a technicality, it felt amazing, right? It was a very large payout, and it was the biggest event in the world for Shadowverse, and it was an honor to be there. I was very proud of my performance at the World Grand Prix. I think I did very well, especially for my first time. I ended up going 4-3 with 2 very, very close matches that ended in 2 wins for me, 3 wins for my opponent.
If I remember correctly, it was like 12 a.m. or 2 a.m. and then just the rest of the day. It was honestly intense for him. Gosh, yes, his passport expired even. It was so stressful because in order for him to even compete, he needed to get that passport. And because it expired, it took a while to get out. COVID was happening, it took even longer because of paperwork. And I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, he got it on day. It was all good, and Robert was able to compete, which is honestly really, really, like, cross fingers, thank God, right?
Again, the matches were so close where it was like down to the wire, an absolute nail-biter on camera on the final round that I ended up losing. I honestly could not be mad. Yeah, it was so close. I had so much fun playing that even if I lost, it was very clearly like I could have. I was like, I belong there, if anything.
A 4-3 performance against the best players in the world is insane. right? And even one of his wins was against the eventual winner. I remember someone bringing this up during practice, but like, you've proven to us, and to the entire world even, that he is a force to be reckoned with in Shadowverse.
Yeah, I definitely practice with a bit more gusto, if anything, after getting there. You know, playing against the best players in the world and realizing, oh, I can beat them. You know, it's very hard and you have to play your best, but it is possible.
He was representing Starfall at this time. At this point, Robert had already graduated, and the affiliation between Humber and Starfall was already being slowly transferred over. But I know that Kevin, lead of Humber Esports, I believe at the time, really was still super hyped with Robert's performance, because like, basically just straight out of college, already a professional, like making money off of esports. Like, it's a huge thing, right?
You were job ready because of your superpowers that you flexed with esports. Of course, these jobs translate. Of course, the superpower of being able to concentrate in Shadowverse directly connects to game programming, which directly connects. It's a natural transition because you know that some gamers make better drivers and pilots, their stats to support there as well.
I guess Humber Esports kind of taught me you can reach much higher than you think you can, just by trying and seeing how far you can get, right? When I started Humber Esports, I never even imagined getting a top 8, let alone getting an invite to the World Grand Prix. So it's crazy to see how far I've come just by trying something new and you know, applying myself, I guess, and putting in consistent effort and practice. Yeah, absolutely. I'm proud of myself and my team.
So the first thing, and the one thing that I basically took word as law from Humber Esports, is that write things down, right? Write it down, do proposals, do afterwards, just keep writing and making sure you have things on paper, right? That has affected how I work in general.
There's not a single job, trade, or discipline that doesn't in some way connect to the video games industry. There's a 2022 study suggesting that the playing of video games is associated with heightened cognition, faster reaction times, improved working memory, and modifying the cortical networks associated with the process of playing. If we can start showing students how their passion for playing connects to their futures, we will have done our jobs.
As a lead developer for the startup company that I'm working for right now, paperwork and making sure things are happening, managing people, also the interpersonal skills, talking to people, making sure things are happening, planning meeting times, like organization, all that really matters when it comes to the workplace, even as a coach into, you know, real world.
Without the team I had behind me, I would not be where I am today, period. They are 100% of the reason why I've gotten this far. They got me to take it seriously and focus on improvement and work on my game as well. So 100%, it's not a solo show. Even though Shadowverse, you compete alone, it's all about the team behind you. Collegiate esports is definitely special to me. First it started as a hobby, then kind of became a huge passion and definitely a highlight of my college experience. The John Ferreira scholarship was amazing to receive. At the time especially, my family was a little in financial distress, which I can assume is a very popular sentiment during the pandemic. It felt great to receive that. And it also felt like Humber was acknowledging our accomplishments as a Shadowverse team.
There's a certain respect I have for collegiate esports that just came from seeing the inside of it. So all the people here are inherently temporary, right? And yet everyone puts in their, do you mind if I swear?
Go for it.
They put their work into it, you know what I mean? They literally shed their blood and tears and sweat trying to be the very best, but you need to start somewhere, and that's where collegiate is. It's more thrilling and it's more personal because you're not there yet, you're getting there. And I think that's what really gets me for collegiate, right? It's not that you're the best, it's the story of becoming the very best.
That's like lifelong friendships that have been forged with cards, digital trade. Y'all, yo, you got me, it's installed. I should open it up again, man. Like, yo, you got me all nostalgic right now. We
are building a framework, not just for varsity competitive esports here at Humber, but to create a standard and a beacon for other schools who also want to build competitive varsity programs.
Docdodo is going to take the set 2-0 over Misuni. See set we just witnessed Docdodo winning yet another set on stream, and it couldn't go any other way.
Doolin, the former champion, losing against Docdodo.
It's up to you guys and your conduct to prove how good being a part of a varsity esports team is. You get to define the value of esports.
I mean, Humber, they've always had talent. That bright moment of opportunity for these players to always rise to the occasion. And it just warms my heart to be able to see that Humber, they don't lose the passion.
We wouldn't be doing this without all the work you guys have put in. So big round of applause for where you started.
You guys ready to play Shadowverse?
Shadowverse? I thought we were playing Force of Will.
You told me Magic.
Guys, we talked about this.
Are you guys looking for Shadowverse cards?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who are you?
Well, I've got one right here.
Yes!
Yeah.
Woo!
魂をかけるその魂をかける